I think that the first one was really to focus on the customer, not the technology. Because otherwise we might use the technology in ways that we find interesting, but actually doesn't create value for the customer. Again, AI is pretty good in customizing and understanding, right? And personalizing responses. As the AI learns more and more about you as a customer, right, it might become really better over time in doing this. My sense, again, is that ultimately, of course, trust is very, very important, right, to build up these connected customer experiences. And so with the automatic execution with the agentic AI, again, first of all, I think it was again important that we made the point in the book. We don't think that automatic execution is always the best solution, but what new experiences can we create for our customers? What new services can we create? Because that was impossible to do it before, but now we can. The main goal of these technologies is to be efficiency.
皆さんこんにちは。 NTT データ経営研究所と国への社長をしております山口です。本日はペンシルバニア大学ウォートンスクールの経営学教授のニコライ・シゲルコ博士をゲストに迎え、企業と顧客との関係がデジタルテクノロジー、特に生成 AI によってどのように進化するのかについて議論したいと思います。ニコライ氏との対談は今回で2度目となります。2023年の対談では、ニコライ氏の著書コネクテッドストラテジーで述べられている競争で優位に立つためのデジタル技術活用による顧客との継続的関係の構築方法について意見交換しました。しかしその後もテクノロジーは進化を続け、特に生成 AI が企業活動を大きく変えつつあります。そのような中、顧客との接点に対する AI の影響も含めて検討する絶好の機会と考え、議論を再度させていただくことにしました。ニコライ氏のフレームワークは AI の影響を検討するためにも大変有益なものであると考えています。AI は既存のカスタマージャーニーを高度化するだけではなく、顧客との信頼関係構築という新たな領域でも価値創出に貢献するのです。Now, I would like to introduce Professor Nicola Shigeruko from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. He is the author of Connected Strategy, a book currently being translated into Japanese by NTT Data Institute of Management Consulting. In our 2023 dialogue, we explored many key concepts from connected strategy. Since then, with rapid advancement in technology and AI transforming business practices, we felt it was the perfect time to revisit the conversation, reflecting on both the foundational ideas and the impact of these emerging trends. Professor Nicola-san, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. No, it's my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to our conversation because, as you said, new technologies have arrived, and we all have to struggle with them and think about how we can use them.
Thank you. Then, shall we start? I think it would be helpful to start with a recap for the audience. The book Connected Strategy describes how to build continuous customer relationships for competitive advantage by using digital technology. The goal is to transform the relationship between firms and customers from few episodic interactions to continuous low-friction relationship involving many smaller interactions. With the launch of ChatGPT and the increasing involvement of major tech companies in this trend, Professor Nicolai-san, published an article in the Harvard Business Review titled Create Winning Customer Experience with Generative AI. Professor Nikolai-san, could you walk us through the key takeaways from this article?
Sure, happy to. I think there were kind of three key points that we wanted to make in this article. I think the first one was really to focus on the customer, not the technology. And of course, we all love technology, and technology is always very exciting because it allows us to do more things. But I think it's really important to always ask, what is really the problem that we're trying to solve? Because otherwise, we might use the technology in ways that we find interesting, but actually doesn't create value for the customer. And so, kind of continuing with the theme of connected strategy, I think we really encourage companies or managers to first think about what is a particular pain point that you might want to resolve for the customer, right? And then ask, how does this new technology, generative AI in this case, might help us to implement that particular solution. So that's kind of the step number one. The second point was, as we are kind of thinking around developing these connected customer experiences, and the way we've kind of described this was there was sort of a loop of various steps that need to get involved, right? You need to recognize the need of a customer, you need to translate that need into a solution and then request a solution. Then as a company, we have to respond. And then hopefully, as we are sort of transforming few episodic interactions and many more smaller interactions, we can sort of repeat that loop many more times. And it is, we felt kind of really through this repeat loop that firms might create a sustained competitive advantage. And this is kind of where we think, again, AI or generative AI can be really useful, because in some sense, that technology has built in this learning in its very core, right? That it really learns from the prior interactions that you have with this technology to then refine and become better and becoming more custom tailored in the way they might understand what your needs are, the way maybe to find the right solution for you in your particular, and then to be able to respond quickly. And so in some sense, kind of that internal learning is sort of core to this technology. And I think that is sort of one particular interesting use case for this technology. And thirdly is, I think the common or a quite common way to think about these new technologies is, how can we save cost, right? How can we basically substitute for maybe things that people currently are doing with technology? And clearly this will happen, and clearly this is important. But it might, at the end, again, become kind of a best practice that everyone will do, and will be not a source of competitive advantage. And so our third point was really, how can we use this technology to complement the capabilities and the skills of our people rather than to substitute for them, right? And I think by complementing them, we might be able to create very different customer experiences that we were able to create before. And that's ultimately where we think is really kind of a lot where the value will come from these new technologies. So those were kind of the three key points that we wanted to make in that article.
Thank you. We also know that we have introduced the concept of 4 connected customer experiences, which we find quite interesting. As the experiences move from response to desire to automatic execution, more responsibility gradually shifts from the customer to the firm, with the firm being able to be more proactive in engaging with customers. With all the progress in AI today, could you share your thoughts on that?
Yes. So I think this is, to us, sort of was a little bit the exciting way of thinking about, coming back to my earlier point, right? You want to think about problems that you want to solve with this particular technology, not just the technology by itself. And we felt kind of our framework of thinking about different connected customer experiences might be at least one way kind of to think in a more structured way of how these new technologies might be able to help us. And so we can, go basically one by one and ask, for instance, right, sort of how will generative AI help us implementing a respond to desire connected customer experience, right? And again, just to jog our memory, a respond to desire connected customer experience was one where the customer knows precisely what she wants. And then she wants to kind of press on a button and have sort of the rest of a customer journey be as smooth as possible. Now, when it comes to a respond to desire experience that involves physical goods, there is some limit to it, right? Because ultimately there are molecules that have to be moved. So I think there's still a lot around logistics and operational excellence. But when it comes to respond to desire with respect to information, right? I have a particular question. I want to file for a patent. How can I do this? Well, previously, right, I had to wait for a capable other person on the other side of the line to answer that question. And if that person wasn't available, then I had to wait, right? And so the respond of this was not very smooth. And it's particularly in that domain, right, of getting answers to particular informational questions that these large language models have become tremendously better over time, right? So just over the last 2 years or so, kind of the improvement, the kinds of questions that they're able to ask, the quality of the answers has improved rapidly. So that's clearly one area in which generative AI or large language models can really play a big role, right? So the respond to desire when it comes to information. When we think about curated offering, again, AI is pretty good in customizing and understanding, right? And personalizing responses. And so that's basically what curated offering is about, is trying to help the customer understand what are all the options out there and what's the best option for the particular customer. And so as the AI learns more and more about you as a customer, right, it might become really better over time in doing this. Coach behavior is where we are now getting sort of a little bit more agentic, and I know we will talk about this a little bit later on that. But this is sort of where the AI starts or initiates the interaction by possibly again monitoring you and picking up early warning signs or reminding you on certain things, and then automatic execution is obviously where we completely kind of give the decision rights, if you wish, to the system. And again, I think we'll have much more later to talk about the human in the loop. That is probably quite important when it comes to automatic execution. But broadly speaking, we find this is sort of an interesting way into the question of, right, what are particular problems that generative AI or large language models might help us to solve, to think about these 4 different connected customer experiences.
So thank you. So now let's focus on AI's impact on connected strategy more deeply. So overall, we can say that AI is having a significant impact on the digital drivers behind the connected strategy. Especially, we move into the era of generative AI and now agentic AI. This slide shows that the impact can be viewed from 2 perspectives. First, from the customer experience, AI can now deliver content and services that are fully tailored to individual needs and preferences without requiring human involvement. AI agent can seamlessly orchestrate complex systems such as real-time API calls and cross-organizational coordination to offer truly one-stop solutions. And from the employee experience, AI enables the analysis of massive data sets to uncover correlations and even causal relationships that were previously difficult to detect. This improves forecasting, supports better decision making, and helps business take more strategic actions. What's especially notable is that agentic AI takes things a step further. We see increased autonomy and goal-directed behavior, enabling business to automate complex workflows and decision-making. This can ultimately build deeper customer connections and delivering great value. Let's look at how different digital technologies come together to power the connected strategy. On the left side, we have various digital drivers as mentioned before. Then they support four major business goals. Customer delight, such as creating moments of surprise and joy. Customer retention, such as building long-term loyalty. Speed execution, and low-cost execution. Finally, we bring it all together into models, the connected customer relationship and the connected delivery model in your framework. Now that we have outlined the two models, the connected customer relationship and the connected delivery model, let's take a closer look at one of them, the connected customer relationship. To understand how this relationship works in practice, we will dive into the four connected customer experiences. These experiences are key to building stronger, more dynamic connections with customers. Let's explore how each of these approaches helps companies engage with their customers more effectively. Respond to desire. It's all about being responsive when the customer clearly says what they want and when they want it. In this scenario, the company needs to be quick and accurate in fulfilling that request. Curated offering. The idea is to provide the customer with a careful selected range of options. It's about understanding what might fit their needs and giving them just enough to make a decision without making it feel complicated. Coach behavior. This is about guiding the customer's decisions rather than just reacting. It involves subtly nudging them to make choices that might align better with their long-term goals or help reduce costs. Automatic execution. This is where things get really seamless. The company takes care of fulfilling the customer's needs without them even having to ask. Company needs to monitor customer and translating incoming data into action. As we move toward greater adoption of generative AI and agentic AI, we will see a fundamental shift in how humans perceive and interact with AI. AI will go beyond fulfilling basic needs such as comfort and efficiency, and it will evolve into a partner or coach capable of addressing higher level human needs such as relationship, esteem, and self-actualization needs. This evaluation has the potential to significantly transform the customer journey, particularly through AI's growing ability to establish trust with customers. Young people now do not hesitate to ask private issues to AI. Let us now explore this idea in detail. As mentioned before, the customer journey typically follows a highly effective 4R cycle in your framework: recognize, request, respond, repeat, which helps maintain consistent customer engagement by guiding interaction step by step. Now with AI, we have the opportunity to enhance each part of this journey. Instead of only following the cycle and repeat, AI enables a deeper, more dynamic connection at every stage. Each phase whether it's recognizing latent needs, responding to requests, or delivering the final experience, can become more insightful and proactive. Instead of repeating a process as a whole cycle, AI enables the continuous expansion of the customer journey by proactively identifying needs and offering solutions before customers even ask. One key area where AI makes a big difference is relationship building. We have introduced this new element to emphasize the importance of building trust. AI makes interactions not just more personalized, but also more interactive and reliable, delivered in real time, and at a significantly reduced cost. What are your thoughts on how AI can contribute to building trust with customers? Please.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting and quite deep question. My sense, again, is that ultimately, of course, trust is very, very important, right? To build up these connected customer experiences. And we've, talked a little bit in the book about it's sort of a chicken and egg problem where, if we really want to help our customer to fulfill more fundamental needs, we need a very deep connection to the customer, right? A very rich information flow. But unless we have a credible claim that we actually are able to solve these more fundamental needs, the customer probably doesn't want to share that data with us in the first place, right? And so, how to get the process started? And I think to us in general, it is the way you build up trust is by really delivering value back to the customer from the data that they have given you, right? And so this is probably a slower process where we identify a particular pain point of a customer and say, hey, if you share this information with us, we can maybe really tangibly help you improve kind of right your life or your business life or your particular tasks that you are involved with. And I think that's sort of the general theme of how I see generative AI or large language models kind of to work, because as you kind of very nicely outlined a moment ago, AI can make us better in recognizing, requesting, and responding. And as a result, it may allow us to create, in some sense, more value because we are able to create better solutions at lower cost than we were able before. But we still have to be really careful that we are able to provide the value, at least some of that value back to the customer, right? Because I think it can very quickly turn the other way, right? Where if I feel I'm just being exploited and now I'm being exploited in even more sophisticated ways by this new technology, then I think it is very easy to destroy the trust that you build up. Because again, right, since these systems are so good, they are also better possibly in exploiting kind of right the information that they're gathering. And so I think that's kind of the danger, and I guess with these technologies. But you're absolutely right. Fundamentally, since they create more value, they allow us to provide more value back, and as a result, possibly to build up that trust more easily or more quickly. And again, as you said later, in your remarks, so it's partly a generational thing, right? At least sort of for that initial interaction. But again, right, younger people are very sophisticated in them seeing, do I get some value back? And if I don't feel I'm getting value back, why do I want to have this connection with you, right? So yeah, very good.
Thank you. That was very insightful. As we focus on trust as a key part of relationship building, this slide shows our thinking on how generative and agentic AI compared with traditional chatbots in supporting that goal. Traditional chatbots are limited. They follow predefined rules. handle only simple questions, and often just repeat standard responses. This makes it hard to build meaningful customer relationships. On the other hand, generative AI offers a much more advanced experience. It can respond flexibly, even to complex or unexpected questions. It understands the context and intent, not just keyword. It provides real-time personalized solutions based on user needs, and it can tailor follow-ups using the full history of the conversation. This creates an interaction that feels more intelligent, natural, and human, helping customers feel heard and understood. In the end, this helps build a stronger sense of trust with our customers while keeping things fast and cost-effective. Imagine if the same task had to be done by humans. The cost would be significantly higher. This slide, we are focusing on agentic AI's ability to automate execution across the customer journey. The top part shows the familiar stages from recognizing needs to responding after the purchase. What's new here is how agentic AI can autonomously take over a series of actions that traditionally require multiple human steps. At the bottom, you will see how this works. First, the AI understands the context and the situation behind it. Then, it plans and executes the necessary steps. Throughout the journey, it can take action without waiting, without rest, and with high efficiency. Importantly, there is still a role for humans. For example, during key decision points, a human review or check is still built in. What do you think about our idea from your customer strategy framework?
Yeah, no, it's great, and I'll come back to this in a second, but I think kind of, on your last slide, there was a wonderful example, right? So the traditional chatbot versus kind of the generative AI, to come back to our earlier conversation. I think a traditional chatbot is sort of a wonderful example of a technology that solves a problem for the company, but not for the customer, right? And so I, as a customer, say, "Oh yes, you have this chatbot, so you can save some money," but I'm not getting the answers that I need, right? And it's very frustrating to interact with this technology. And I just want to talk to someone so I can get actually my question be answered. And so you are just basically imposing a cost on me, because ultimately I may still have to call, I may still have to do something to get my answer, right? And that is not a way to build trust with your customer, right? And so again, I think it's a nice example where kind of better technology really might allow us to for the customer also say, "Oh yeah, it's actually convenient for me because I don't have to wait in line, kind of, right, for someone to finally pick up the phone, and I'm actually getting good information back. So, okay, I can maybe see why it helps you, firm, kind of to reduce some cost, but also it is more convenient for me, right?" And so there is sort of some sharing of value that happens, and it's not just that I see how you are benefiting as a firm, but also how I benefit as a customer. So with the automatic execution with the agentic AI, again, first of all, I think it was again important that we made the point in the book. We don't think that automatic execution is always the best solution, right? And there is sort of, I tend to talk about this as the fine line between magic and creepy, right? Where if we have these automatic execution, some people really love it if stuff automatically happens and I'm not even involved, and somehow magically things are happening in my life. And some people find that really creepy. and unnerving, right? That all of these things are happening. And so I think we need to be careful of what kind of customers and for what kind of situations customers really like automatic execution, or where maybe sort of some curated offering might be better, where it's still the customer deciding ultimately what they want to do, but I'm kind of curating a set of options for you. Now, with the automatic execution, the other problem, of course, is that what's the cost of getting it wrong?
Yeah.
Right? And that is, of course, now where sort of the human in the loop comes in, right? When you're saying, if these are critical decisions or critical, diagnosis, for instance, right, about a disease or, a plan for treatment, there the cost of getting it wrong might be really high, right? And this is probably where we still need to have some humans involved. So this notion of human in the loop, I think, is really interesting. But there are lots of different ways of keeping a human in the loop, right? And so you have
Right.
sort of outlined one particular way of, where within that whole journey we can intervene as a human, as checking, for instance, right? But again, right, depending on the kind of interaction it is, maybe it's the human who needs to present the ideas to the patient or to to the person versus the technology. Maybe the human gets involved a little bit earlier in the process, right? And so this, I think, kind of a really interesting question of, where within that customer journey is it really beneficial, right, to have the human touch or the human supervision or the human input? And again, that will probably vary a lot, right, depending on what the kind of interaction is, what kind of industry we are in, and sort of how expensive errors are, because we certainly know, right, these systems, while they have become really good, they still make errors, right? They still hallucinate, they still come up with weird things. And coming back to the trust point that you made earlier, it is sort of an interesting, and I don't know what deeper evolutionary reason there is, but I think we have much less tolerance for errors done by machines than by humans. Right? And so it's like, right, to err is human, right? And so if someone gets something wrong, so okay, fine, that can have happened. But if a machine gets something wrong, we become very, very upset, right? And we see this, right, with self-driving cars, for instance, right now, right? And so the level of quality that we expect a self-driving car to have, and how upset we would be if a self-driving car gets into an accident and kills a passenger, relative to, right, how many automobile accidents happen just with human drivers, right? And so there is sort of an interesting point, again, sort of a risk involved here, right? Of how much are we moving on to agents or agentic AI. And again, coming back to that theme, right, of how expensive are errors, and as a result, we may need to keep, right, sort of humans in the loop in various ways, which then, of course, has interesting implications on the cost savings again,
Yeah.
right? Because all of a sudden now people are still involved, right?
Yeah.
And so certain things have been moved off, but now people are still involved. And so this is again why I think coming back to this earlier point of complementing rather than substituting humans, right? Kind of really asking, where is it that the humans really add value, and is it about summarizing meetings and summarize? No, that AI can do very well, okay, right? And we don't need the human to spend hours on it. But there may be other points where really kind of added value can be created. And so so I think this is a really intriguing thing, because particularly when we come to this automatic execution, on the one side there is a very big upside. On the other side, there are probably also the largest risks involved, right? Of trusting AI with that.
Yeah, thank you. I share the possibility of agentic AI in customer journey, and I recognize we have to take risk and other conditions into consideration when we implement agentic AI in practice. Thank you. I understand we have to take measure against risk reduction. Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Next, I would like to have a broader discussion around strategic positioning within the connected delivery model in your framework. This slide outlined several types of connected architecture. Could you briefly explain what this concept is about?
Sure. So in sort of our view, connected strategy has really two big pieces. One is this notion of really fundamentally reshaping the way you interact with customers, right? And that's sort of the topic that we have been just talking about, and creating these connected customer experiences. The second element of connected strategy is creating basically new connections among various players of ecosystems, right? And so depending on who's being connected with whom, this led us then to describe a set of what we call connection architectures. And so what all of these architectures have in common is that on the one side, you have a set of customers, right? And these are either individuals or these might be companies. And then there is an information flow between from these individuals, these firms, to kind of our focal firm. Now, either it is that these customers sort of actively push this information to the firm, right, by filling out surveys, by typing in information, or maybe the firm sort of automatically hovers above these individuals and extracts the data automatically through, right, a wearable device or however it is. And so now the question is, so this information now comes into the focal firm. Now, if this focal firm is actually the producer of the main products or services that these customers want, so the key connection goes directly back from that firm to the customers, right? That's sort of a setup we call a connected producer, right? And so I would say, right, a healthcare system, a consulting firm, right? Kind of those are connected producers, right? We as a university, right? Sort of customers come to us and we are kind of the key providers of these services. Now, then there is a different connection architecture where actually these products or services are not being produced by that firm that receives this information, but by a whole set of independent suppliers. But now I, as a firm, sort of actively connect these suppliers through my warehouse or through my operations to the customer. And so we call these connected retailers, right? Because that's in some sense how retailers work. They're not producing everything that they're selling, but they're connecting customers on one side to suppliers, but they're sort of actively involved in moving the products from the suppliers to the customer. A third type of connection architecture we call a connected market maker, where information flows to the firm, but now the firm connects me directly to suppliers and the supplier directly deals with me, right? So this is examples like an Expedia, right, where they do not hold inventory of hotel rooms or of airline seats, but they connect me to an airline and then the airline sort of directly deals with me. A fourth type of connected architecture we call a crowd orchestrator, which has sort of a similar structure than the connected market maker, but now these suppliers aren't companies, but individuals, right? So this is the gig economy. This is Airbnb, Uber, Lyft, where basically the suppliers become individuals who maybe previously were not part of that industry, but now have been sort of pulled into this industry as new suppliers. And then the last kind of connected architecture that we're talking about are peer-to-peer networks, where it's sort of not clear who's the buyer, who's the supplier, or maybe we switch our roles quite often. And so we can think about, for instance, our social networks, Facebook, what have you, LinkedIn, as part of these network creators that are peer-to-peer. So those are kind of 5 different connection architectures that we described.
Thank you for the explanation. With that foundation, there are 2 major points I would like to emphasize regarding strategic positioning. So first is companies should not always play the role of ecosystem leaders. And second, the position of a company within an ecosystem is dynamic, not static. It must adapt and evolve. So I was very impressed by your strategic positioning in connected delivery model framework. But after studying some cases, I recognize these 2 points. So I would like to share my idea. On the left, we have Anchor as a sub-player using the connected retail architecture by selling through Amazon. They benefit from Amazon's scale and customer base. But more than that, they analyze Amazon reviews to improve their product by using the platform as a tool for strengthening product development as well as distribution. This has helped them grow while keeping costs low. And they have now started to expand into their own sales channels too. So Anchor does not play the leader role, but they can grow their business drastically. And on the right side, Huazhu, a Chinese hotel chain, is shown as part of the connected market maker architecture, working with online travel agents to acquire new customers. What's smart here is their use of loyalty programs to shift repeat customers onto their own booking system. This helps them reduce OTA commissions while building a more direct relationship with their guests. So in both cases, these companies are not trying to be the leader of ecosystem connected architecture, but they are making strategic moves that allow them to grow and strengthen their customer base. So I would love to hear your thoughts on my idea.
Yeah, no, I think that's really intriguing here. So clearly what you're describing is that these suppliers themselves have obviously a connected customer experience, right, that they're trying to create. And in part, they're using, right, sort of the information that they're getting from the architecture that they are a part of, right, to improve and create their relationship to their end customers. Absolutely right. And I think it's a really nice thing to point out that clearly there are in these systems more than just one player, kind of right, that is creating the value. It is sometimes kind of the challenge of the suppliers to get the data, right? And that's sort of the because the if the information, if the data first flows to another party, that party, of course, sometimes knows the value of this data and doesn't like to share that data. Something that we've seen in many different instances, right? Car manufacturers have a lot of data, and but they don't want to share it with their suppliers. Any company that distributes their products through a set of middlemen quite often have a hard time getting the information from the end customer, right? Because the let's say the distribution channel sits in between and says, yeah, but we have that data. So that's sometimes the challenge, but as you said, sometimes that's at least the starting point, right? And then some of these firms will start to try to create some direct connections like Anchor, as you were just pointing out, right? And at some point, kind of, right, get themselves some direct connections with customers. But I think it is really, a very important point that you make here. As we're thinking about ecosystems, right? There are lots of different players, and you can play various roles in this. And not everyone is the orchestrator, right, of the entire ecosystem, right? There are many players in there. and particularly if you're a smaller player, right? Not everyone can lead. And so understanding kind of right what role to play in that ecosystem, how to utilize right sort of your position in that system, it can be, I think, really interesting way to think about how you position yourself there. Still, I think kind of right sort of the notions that we talked about earlier of how do you create a good connector customer experience, right, is still very much there, right? And that's sort of what we're seeing. I think you nicely pointed this out, right? How both um, the both examples that you used here, right? Sort of we're using information over time to create a better customer relationship with their end customers. So great. No, thank you.
Thank you. In the closing segment, we would be glad to hear your message for our Japanese audience. Based on today's discussion, do you have any final thoughts or advice you would like to share with us, especially as we think about how connected strategy can be applied in Japan in the age of AI? Please.
Yes, no, happy to. Um, Japanese companies for a long time were amazingly good on the efficiency side, right? Creating high quality products, but really kind of where our advantage was coming from is operational excellence, improving this over time, pushing out the frontier, right? And just thinking about lean manufacturing sort of as a big cornerstone of Japanese success. And however, kind of right, as we've also learned over time, it becomes harder and harder, right? Kind of to maintain that advantage because other firms will finally catch up and sort of those efficiency improvements become harder and harder, particularly as firms become larger and larger, right? And so that there tends to be sort of a limit to that. And so my concern might be, and I might be completely wrong here, but my concern is that if one has kind of this efficiency mindset, one will focus a lot on the uses of these new technologies of reducing cost and increasing efficiency, right? And while that is certainly important, and while that is certainly, a worthwhile exercise, again, I'm afraid that ultimately everyone will do that. Everyone will use it in ways that will increase efficiencies, reduce cost, figuring out where is it that we can really substitute this technology for human labor, become more efficient. But ultimately, again, these things will become table stakes. They'll become benchmarks and best practices. And so I would really encourage, right, everyone to think really more creatively about these new technologies and not just asking, how will they make us more efficient, but what new experiences can we create for our customers? What new services can we create? Because that was impossible to do it before, but now we can. How can we really supercharge any interaction, any personal interaction that I have with a company? Because now we have so much richer information and we have sort of these support systems by the side, right? And so this notion of a co-pilot, I think I very much like. And so again, I would just like us to avoid falling into this trap of just thinking about the main goal of these technologies to be efficiency. And I know kind of, again, Japanese companies are really good at that. And so I think kind of the earlier we can also start to think about, right, how do we use these technologies to create really wonderful new customer experiences that solve problems that customers are having. Is really important. In that context, then again, right, sort of one of the key elements of strategy is to make choices, right? To make choices of what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
And again, I think that kind of focus might become really important here because these technologies are wonderful because they can be used in so many different ways. And really understanding, okay, this is really what our strategy is, this is what our focus is, and this is how this new technology can help us in particular in these ways, right? I think will become also an important element of helping us to prioritize, right? Where do we really want to invest our money? Where do we want to first apply this technology? So that we're not getting so scattered and trying to do so many different things that ultimately may not really set us apart from our competitors. So those are some kind of thoughts, on potential pitfalls and hopefully to avoid them.
Thank you for the valuable insight. You have shared 2 points with us today. One point is that we Japanese companies should not focus on improving efficiency, but also to make or create customer value. This is one point. And second point is that we Japanese companies should clarify what we should do and what we should not do. So thank you for insightful advice. I believe this dialogue has sparked fresh ideas and inspiration that we can take forward. It's been a pleasure learning from you, and we look forward to continuing the conversation in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.
Hello there.
Hi.
Oh, it's been a while, huh?
It has been a while, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah. Almost 30 years, yes.
I know.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had a little bit fever, and so I'm working at home today.
Okay,
But,
all right.
Yeah, online, it won't affect you at all. So.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks to technology.
Yeah, so I have something I can show you.
There we are, Section E. Wow.
Yeah. But somehow you are the special student at that time, right? I don't know. You attended the first year, right? So
Correct. Yes, I was just there since the first year, and then I took again some PhD classes, both in the economics department and some doctoral classes at Hbs.
Across the river, right?
Right, yeah, that's sort of where I spent my first year was all econ classes. Then my second year was the first year of the MBA program with you guys. And then my third year was again classes in the econ department and some PhD seminars at the business school.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I only went to 10th reunion.
Okay.
So actually, I don't see many of the section years, but sometimes, when I go to London, I met Oliver, or when I go to San Francisco, I met some guys. I do remember that even 30 years ago, your nickname at that time was a professor, right?
Well, I was a PhD student, so
yeah. So maybe these are all the business guys working for the the business field, but you were at that time already looking for the career in academic area. So
exactly.
and
Yes.
your analytics was very good. So I do remember that you I'm not too sure, but your nickname is something to do with the academic career. So you even at that time you're called a professor or something like that. That's my recognition. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was one of the few PhD students in the program.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's been good. So after you graduated, you went back to NTT, right? And have been there.
Yeah. Fortunately, I'm still with the management class of the NTT, and
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm now CFO of the NTT Data Group. Yeah, Vice President position. And Yamaguchi-san was our former Vice President. So I took some of his positions. But Yamaguchi-san is very good at how do you say, the collaborating with all the
Yeah, good.
front
Good.
people like yourself.
Yeah. No, wonderful. Yes, no, I've been I've been not quite as long, but almost as long now at this institution, right? So after I graduated in 1998, I joined the University of Pennsylvania and have been here ever since. So
Oh, yeah.
so it's also been now 27 years. No, it's really good. And yeah, no, I've been really enjoying the various activities I've done with NTT over the last 3 years or 2 years now, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I didn't notice that long period.
Yeah, no, I've been sort of over the years
Mm-hmm.
around this topic of connected strategy and done so various workshops with some of your clients and sort of joint sessions. And yeah, no, it's been neat to kind of spread the word a little
Yeah.
bit more broadly and have some collaborators in spreading the word. So that's of course exciting.
Good. So do you have a chance to come to Japan sometime or not yet?
I hope to manage it, but so for the last 3 years, I've also become the vice dean of our MBA program here at Wharton.
Okay.
So that's a
It's
pretty
kind of full-time job for 3 periods, or
it should be a full-time job, but I'm still teaching and do all this other stuff as well. So
Okay.
so
Okay.
it's yeah, and so that's why it's been kind of a crazy full schedule of teaching, MBAs, teaching executive MBAs who also have classes in the summer, and then
Yeah.
and then sort of pre-term starts up early August for the new incoming class, like 3 weeks before actually classes start, and so kind of there's hardly any break in between.
So the occupancy rate of the
I haven't been able to make it out all the way to Japan,
okay. So yeah, maybe it's much more easier for me to go to Philadelphia rather than you coming to Tokyo. I understand.
No, but yeah, I think I've been to Japan a few times, but some years ago when Wharton had like a big event in Tokyo.
I've been working with the investor relationship business so far. So I often go to, let's say, New York, Boston. That's the main area, and
Yeah.
some major investors in Baltimore. Yeah, but unfortunately, not many in Philadelphia.
Right. Yeah. But Philly is just an hour away or an hour and a half away from New York. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for taking
well,
time.
it was wonderful to reconnect. It was sort of an unexpected extra bonus of our session today.
Good.
Excellent. Well, so wonderful to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. And so, thanks to NTT, at some point the book will come out in Japanese. So that's
okay. And when I see my classmates years, I tell you that you're doing well, right?
Thank you very much for the conversation we had today.
Yeah.
And thank you for linking me up to my old lost schoolmate. No, that's wonderful to reconnect.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Or good day for you.
Professor Nikolai again. Good to see you.
There we go. Great to see you. Bye.